Hello, everybody. Today we're talking about Israel and Gaza. So, many people are using the word genocide to describe what Israel is doing to Gaza. Is it a genocide? Well, first, we need to know what a genocide is. A genocide is the extermination of a group of people based on their national identity or religious identity or group identity of some sort in the effort to exterminate them or get rid of them completely from the earth. Israel clearly has no stated intention of this. Yes, there are factions, crazy people in Israel and within the army and things that maybe have said things, but this is clearly not the organization's official view. And in action, this is not represented either. So, is Israel committing a genocide just based on the fact that they are trying to eliminate all Palestinians? Well, absolutely not. There's a lot of Palestinians and Arabs living within Israel and living good lives. There are even Arab politicians within the Israeli government. So it is not an ethnic thing. They are simply fighting terrorism and fighting Hamas. But before we get to that, let's go to the amount of deaths. So there's a couple million Palestinians, and about 60,000, 70,000 of them have died if you believe in the Gaza Health Ministry. The Gaza Health Ministry is not even an organization. It is just Hamas. They're the ones that are given the numbers. So they are definitely inflated, but let's even inflate them more to, let's say, 80,000. Fine. 80,000 people have died, which is a lot of people. But in relation to 2 million, that is not even close to a substantial portion of it. So either Israel is trying to commit genocide and they're just not very good at it, or they're not committing genocide. It's really that simple. Given their military capabilities and their effectiveness, if they wanted to eliminate all of the Gazans, well, they would all be gone by now. Evidenced by their warnings of incoming bombings and things. They're clearly not trying to target civilians. Well, why are so many civilians killed? Well, what's the stated goal of Israel? They are trying to get Hamas, which is a terrorist organization, which is a barbaric organization, which is a genocidal organization. Hamas openly calls for the destruction of Israel. Iran backs them, and Iran also calls for the destruction of Israel, kind of. They don't even recognize it as existing. They just recognize some Jews occupying the land, and they need to be exterminated. So there clearly is genocidal intent in this conflict, but not from Israel, but from Israel's enemies. They want to get rid of Israel. And why? Well, because they're Jews. Anti-Semitism is one of the grossest forms of collectivism. Racism is perhaps the grossest form of collectivism, and anti-Semitism is just extra bad. Going back to the intent, so clearly they are not intending to eliminate everybody because they are capable of it. And actually, in the last 20 years, Israel is the ones that have been providing Gaza's life, their flourishing, their prosperity, and Gazans' population has at least tripled in this time. So that's not a very good genocide either. But then back to the question of why are there so many civilians dying? Why is Israel bombing apartment complexes, schools, hospitals, and things that are considered war crimes? Well, it's because Hamas positions themselves beneath apartment buildings, hospitals, and schools. Hamas is using the Gazans, as human shields. So just because Hamas is using them as human shields, does this mean now that Israel shouldn't pursue them? Of course not. They should try to get rid of Hamas. And since Hamas is using Gazans as human shields by positioning their headquarters and bunkers and safe houses and all these things under the civilians, it is Hamas that is responsible for these deaths. It's simple. People focus on the war crime of bombing a hospital, but nobody's focusing on the war crime that starts the bombing of the hospital of having a military base beneath the hospital. So, of course, they need to be exterminated. So, really, this whole conflict is between civilization and barbarism. Israel represents civilization. They represent individualism for the most part. Of course, even countries like America and the West, they have more individualism than they have collectivism, and that's why generally these places are better to live in. I am extreme or hardcore, very principled on the individualist stance, and I think all these countries I just named could do a much better job. But regardless, Israel is more individualistic than it is collectivist. And this shows in their honor of individual rights, free trade, and peace and prosperity, which they promote, which their neighbors do not, especially the Palestinians who have supported Hamas. That's another thing. People say, well, don't equate Hamas with the Palestinians. Well, the Palestinians had an election and they elected Hamas. And it's horrible for the people that are against Hamas. But what is there to be done? Hamas needs to be removed. Hamas does not recognize any sort of individual rights. They are fundamentally a collectivist death cult. It is echoed by many Islamists throughout the world that they love death more than non-Muslims love life. So it's literally just a death cult, which anti-life is an anti-value, since life is the thing that gives all values. If you're anti-life, well, then you are anti-value. So your values obviously cannot be good because they're anti-values. And Hamas is barbaric. What they did on October 7th, and the way, I don't want to describe it all, but the way that they went about with their murderings and their cheering of it, of the brutality and the maiming and raping and dragging and all these things, and everybody's cheering it, is absolute barbarism. You will never see anything on the side of Israel doing the same thing. So back to the proportionality. So this is the big thing now in the international, like the ICC and other things. People are saying that Israel is waging a disproportionately deadly war against Gazans. So the morality of the war is decided, or rather who is moral in the war is decided on who is the one that has had the most casualties. But this is not a moral evaluation. It cannot be the fact that whoever has more people, more casualties, more people that have died, does not mean that they are the moral ones. This is the idea that weakness corrupts, that the weaker one must always be the moral one. And this is a result of the multi-millennial altruistic propaganda campaign. The idea that, the weaker you are, that self-sacrifice is good. It is not. Strength is good. Power is good. Responsibility and rationality is good. I don't know the casualties in World War II, let's say between the Americans and the Germans during World War II. But it doesn't matter. Let's say that the Germans suffered way more casualties than the Americans. This does not mean that because there was a disproportionate amount of casualties between the American and German sides in World War II, that the one that had more casualties is the moral one that needs to be supported. It has nothing to do with it. What has to do with which side is moral is the values. Like I said, Israel supports individualism, free trade, prosperity, and Hamas promotes death, genocide, and human shields and brutality. So really this whole argument is about civilization versus barbarism. There is no third option here. If you think that the weaker one is always the right one, well, this is a symptom of altruism, which is the morality of self-sacrifice, which is fundamentally irrational, inhuman, and anti-life. So you need to reevaluate that. Now, last thing I'll say about this, yes, there are soldiers that misbehave or act barbarically, we could say. They could be idiots, they could be doing horrible things. But the in politics, in war, like each individual soldier is not representing everything. You don't just take the worst and say this is what they all are. We must look at the larger value of the thing. And the larger value of the IDF and Israel is peace and prosperity. The larger value of Hamas and the Palestinians is genocide and wiping out Israel, is weakness. It's that simple. So this has been me actually thinking today. I'm sure I'll get some heat. If you think I was thinking badly, let me know, and I'll see you in the next one.